Meathead Podcast. Raw, real, and refreshingly short.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Jonathan, Carnivore Muscle, and his mother, Karen, right?
Hi.
Hi. And we are here talking about autism, exercise, and the carnivore diet.
Yeah, so this was actually Juliet's idea to talk today a little bit about autism, specifically in relation to exercise. So I notice myself when I'm exercising, I like the intense focus it gives me because it distracts me from everything else. It's like when I'm in the gym, I can focus on something. I've got something to check, analyze, progress from. I remember when I was younger, I was speaking to Mum in the car earlier about it. Like I used to just make things and I'd have like a system for like how I'd order like toy soldiers and things, and everything had to be a certain way. Yeah, the same thing's true of like the bodybuilding side of it. I think I get the same kind of experience and benefit from that. No, I remember you saying about Xander, I think, was doing some kind of exercise, or you feel like it's more beneficial to him. How do you feel about that at the moment then?
Yeah, well, he's always kind of like, even when he was really young, there's a word for it, when you don't really know where your body is in time and space. And I remember...
Coordination.
What?
Coordination.
There's some other word for it. I don't remember what it is. Some therapist told me once, but I remember one time we were at a restaurant. The tile was, the checkered tile, and he was walking on it. He was about 2, I guess. And he just got so scared and froze. It's like he felt like, it seemed like he felt like there was no ground underneath him. So like, and it's not that bad now, but he's always kind of felt like, so now he really likes tasks where he has to lift heavy things. Like he'll like helping me take the laundry or heavy bags of trash, or he likes pushing shopping carts. Just any heavy work, any work that kind of, he has to use any amount of force really helps him. And so I'm trying to think of like maybe volunteer opportunities I could get him involved with in the community, like where he could do something like maybe a local farm or something. I thought would be good, because then he could do that and like learn about where his food comes from, Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't really have that much when I was a child. We had like petting zoos, but we couldn't like milk a cow or something, or see where our food comes from. It was all very like airy fairy. These are your Disney characters and animals, and you can stroke them, and that's about it. You didn't see the other side of it. I think there's a lot of value to be had from things like farmers, volunteering sort of things, and like that sort of thing. We got that sort of thing. Yeah, collecting eggs
from chickens.
Yeah, 'cause it gives someone a purpose and a bit more
Structure.
I think. Yeah, structure is a good word. What have you noticed about me or other autistic people when it comes to structure? Is it hit and miss, or
they like to organise things in a certain manner and be consistent, and routine. Like to keep things in a routine. Do things at a regular time. Do this, do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say it's because they've got OCD, but I think it's because they're sick to death of suffering and having to do more.
Yeah. You remember I was telling you about like the to-do lists that I make?
Yeah, like when you have to have a system, like a process to do things, otherwise you just get lost. Like I get 1,000 thoughts a minute if I don't write down what I've got to do that day.
And
it's not like I'm procrastinating, thinking I'm going to do it later. It's just things are lag. It's not that I'm procrastinating. It's just like I'm thinking, oh, I could do this now, try and set my mind on something later to achieve. Then it's always about like the next step kind of thing. I think a lot of people don't often look like that. They kind of live between the past, present, and future all at once. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, especially autistic people, because if we watch Rick's live streams, people might think, oh, he's autistic or something, but it's like he doesn't really have any characteristics which are autistic at all, remotely. He's just an introverted person who happens to be very charismatic. That's it. So I think sometimes
people, a lot of people I know.
Yeah,
like a lot of people that my dad,
like your daughter,
friends with. Yeah. What?
Like your daughter.
Oh yeah. Aria, she and I do yoga together. All because I do yoga every morning, and I do my it's my time. Like I wake up and it kind of centers my mind because I can't get into the world or my body without it. But later in the morning, after I've done my thing, she'll get up, and she's very oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn my text off. I don't know why I got a text. She's very like autistic, but with a lot of ADHD. So she's kind of all over the place. So it centers her too, but it's also it's kind of something we do together. And I don't know, like kind of the connection of I think it's also just like I don't know. My theory is like she's got her thoughts and her body, and they're just both kind of doing this. But when she does yoga, it seems like these two lines just become one for a minute. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have you noticed with Aria, so do you feel like she's how do I put it? Do you feel like she experiences like less burnout and less symptoms if she manages her, like if it's like her yoga or doing something with her body and her mind each day?
Absolutely.
So it's helpful, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, not only does she do yoga, but I mean, like she loves to play drums. And I think that just the like maybe the action of the hitting kind of does something, you know what I mean? It gives a release and a centering.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people stim and do things like that. But it sounds odd to other people, but anything could be it. For me, it's probably chewing gum and smoking vapes or something. I don't know. If it wasn't doing that, it'd be drinking Pepsi Max, or it'd be like doing something I could habitually do all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I find myself.
To soothing your thoughts.
Yeah, if I don't do something I'm used to doing, it really distresses me enormously. It's like the world's crashing.
Yeah.
I don't like being put in positions where I can't do what I always do. So I'd never run out of chewing gum unless I absolutely had to.
Yeah, William, one of the first reasons I noticed that like we thought that maybe he had autism was he was stimming. And at first when he was like a year and a half, 2 when it happened. And at first I thought it was a happy dance. I thought it was really cute. Like he would jump and he'd wave his arms. And I thought, oh, it's cute. He's dancing because he was like a toddler. And then we realized, oh, it's probably more than that. And it was stimming. To this day, he still gets very, if he gets agitated, he'll jump and he'll wave his arms. Like, and as a almost 22-year-old, it's more obvious, you know, that's a stimming behavior. I used to, when I was a child, I had really obvious physical tics. Like I would like thrash my arms and kick my legs. I mean, it really, I felt like I was actually in pain if I didn't do those things. And I would also have like vocal tics, like clicking and humming. And they thought I had Tourette syndrome. But I think maybe it was forms of stimming at that point. But yeah, they thought I had Tourette syndrome at that point. But luckily I don't have that now because it was distracting. I did not want, I mean, I was like 7, 8 years old, but I was still so embarrassed because it's like, I don't want people to see me like thrashing around and making these noises. And I tried to suppress it and made it worse. But I wish I'd known because that was not fun to live with as a child.
Yeah. How did they deal with it when you were in school? Did they sort of put you into a different room? Did you have a different teacher? Did you just sit there and just deal with it? What did you do?
They stuck me in special ed because I had emotional problems. So they didn't know what to do with me. I mean, like academically, I could keep up with everyone, but I struggled to socialize. I struggled to handle the big classrooms because I don't know what it's like there, but it was, at least when I was in school, like 30 plus kids per class. And it was really hard. So they just stuck me in special ed because they didn't know what else to do. And I kind of feel like I was cheated academically because the work they gave the special ed kids was really easy, like insultingly easy. Like a 4-year-old could do this. Like even kids that really severely did have special needs, like it's insulting to them. It was that easy. It was like, no. Anyway, that's my rant.
I think we're a few years behind you guys in terms of like being able to diagnose people properly and in a reasonable time frame. So I'd say we're about 5 to 10 years behind in terms of like having the facilities and, you know, needs and ability to like actually diagnose people. I was diagnosed quite late for a very obvious symptomatic presentation of obvious autism. So that shocks me. Between the whole school system, no one picked it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I worked out what it was, because I knew there was an autistic person in my school, that I went online to do a test to work out what was going on, and I flagged up for everything.
So that's
every single mental disorder you come up.
All through your school.
So I went all through school without any help,
And
stuck on
I
lower
didn't
papers,
know.
getting 100% every single time, and I was stuck on all the lower papers. So reality is I should have got like 10 A's or something. I got 7 C's and 2 B's because I was stuck on the lower paper. So you have over here we have kind of the same sort of principle, imagine. So you have a lower paper and a higher paper, so a foundational and a advanced paper. I was just stuck on the lower papers. But yeah, there was no care whatever for autistic children, unless you're someone that's sat in the classroom banging your head against a wall.
Yeah.
Which is not a typical presentation of an autistic person. That's the vast minority.
Xander will bang his head sometimes. It's very scary.
Yeah, would you describe Xander as, I think he's your youngest, would you say he's got the worst symptomology in terms of like outwards appearance?
He's the middle, but yeah, he definitely has the most severe. Definitely. Yeah.
How about your older one?
William, he's actually the least worrying. He's very independent, very good at following directions, wants to be helpful. The thing is that sometimes, even though he can talk, he doesn't communicate well. Like I can ask him a question and he might repeat it instead of answering it, or it might take a few times before I get an answer. But no, I mean, he's pretty, other than that, he's pretty, I mean, I couldn't leave him to watch the other two. Like I couldn't leave him alone. You know, he'll probably live with me for the rest of his life because I'm not going to send him to live anywhere else. Aria's probably the most normal, although she's very, very hyperactive and kind of a drama queen. But William and Aria are both, they, you know, give them a direction, they'll follow it. Like, you know, go get dressed, go get your shoes on. You know, could you, you know, help me set the table? I mean, they can do all that, but, you know, as far as just, you know, there's a little bit of immaturity and they need a little extra help to focus. William, when he was 5, got ABA, and it helped him a great deal. And I think that Aria could use some ABA too, because, and I'm trying to get that for her because she's really good at like following directions and stuff, but she needs to focus like a lot. Like it takes sometimes some serious wrangling to get her to, okay, over here, we're doing this now, you know.
Yeah, that reminds me of me in school. I used to, if there's a task I quite enjoyed, I was quite passionate about, we'd often not get long enough to do it, because if you think about me, one of maybe 2 autistic children in the classroom. Well, yeah, when I was younger, there weren't any. I'm playing as an introvert with introverted toys and games and things.
Yeah.
We'll get a 10-minute allotment of time to play with those. I'm quite happy, but I've got to move into the next task to compensate for everyone else, to play with the toys that they want, which were overstimulating for me. So I used to go home from school every single day, knackered out my mind, and fall asleep for 2 hours. Wake up for an hour, have dinner, then go straight back to bed. Because I was overstimulated all day, every day, because I was always being forced to do things I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
That was it. And I look back and it's so obvious to me now, because yeah, I'd get shattered by 3 or 4 o'clock. I'd go home and go straight to bed. That'd be it.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
And then you wake up thinking it was the next day.
When I Tell the story in that.
Tell the story. You say.
Tell the story in that.
Oh.
The story to tell. Not mine.
John went to bed when he came home from school, and then he woke up. He thought it was the next day, so I pretended that it was the next day, and he got changed and everything, ready for school. I took him to school, and he thought it was the next day, and it wasn't. It was the same day because he'd been to sleep. He was in a deep sleep because he was so tired.
Yeah, is only when I looked outside, I looked at, you know,
There's no
you get like
kids
the
playing.
flies and, you know, in the sun setting, you kind of get like a red sky.
Mm.
I looked outside, I was like, why does it look outside like it's not daytime now?
Yeah, you thought it was the next day because he'd fallen.
I was looking at the thing, I was like, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't like 8 o'clock in the morning to go into school or whatever. It was like, when I looked at the time on the old car we had, I think it said like 6:30. I'm like, there's no way a mum would be taking me to school that early because we're usually late.
Yeah.
So what? About half an hour gone by, I obviously went home and that. I was like, oh yeah, it's like 7 o'clock and the Simpsons are on TV. It's like, well, they're not on at 7 o'clock in the morning. So there we go.
Also, you used to take time getting ready, doing your shoelaces up or getting your clothes. You always had to do it in a methodical way. You know, do this thing first, do that thing. And then Carl said, come on, just shove it on, just get it on. We got to go. I'm going to be late. And he used to put John under pressure, didn't he? Because you did it.
My whole childhood was pressure.
Yeah.
That's all I remember.
You were trying to do each thing really well rather than just rush and do it and get a move on.
Yeah, because I was obviously taller than other children, bigger. You don't become as coordinated as quick. So I didn't have very good fine motor skills, so I couldn't. I still don't really. Like, I'm not. If I take my time, I can write something that looks neat, but it takes me a ridiculous amount of time, like an absurd amount of time. So it's not worth doing. Nowadays, I'm quite lucky with like AI, and I can voice to text. So you know the Carnivore Bible that I made, like the Beef Up Bodybuilding Bible, that was mostly spoken, like that book. I didn't write much of it. I obviously just dictated it, but that's been really effective for me. And I look back and think, well, if they could have put me in my own room when I was a child, and I could just voice to text what I wanted to say, I'd have got A stars and everything. My limitation was I couldn't write very quickly because they couldn't read my handwriting. I obviously got distracted very easily. So when I was in the classroom, obviously when you're a child, you can't sort of, everyone has their own room and you have to cater to everyone. But it's when I'm sat there in a room and the teachers even are clicking their pens and tapping their foot repeatedly. It used to drive me nuts. Absolutely insane. So I'd never be able to like concentrate when I was working. And that's followed me through in life as well. So when different jobs I've had, if I've not been able to stick to my own task sheet that I've made myself, I'm definitely not inspired to carry on doing it. So I remember when I was managing a healthy shop, I was going to work some days with like 25, 30 things on my itinerary. So some will be like a 1 minute thing, some might be an hour long thing. And every day that list just got longer and longer and longer. One day I just scrapped it and said, why am I trying to fulfill this list that someone else has given to me? How about I just open my eyes and look around me, what does need doing, then work based on my order of priorities, because I'm the manager who's trying to get stuff done. And, I'm probably the best manager they ever had, because I limited the amount of loss that we made during the pandemic because we're going through having to reduce the amount of like restocks we had for certain items, like high price items. So yeah, it's quite helpful in that sense, like having a methodical mind. But oftentimes, if you work with other people, they've got their own method, and sometimes they do it better than you, sometimes they don't. But sometimes you can apply more effort to something, enjoy something more because you wrote the script yourself, and I think that's important for neurodivergent people.
Yeah.
We've got some people in the chat, so I'm just going to throw them up on the screen. So speaking of, thank you very much for joining. So he's given me, I believe it works out something like £7 or £6.40, which is quite helpful. Much appreciated. So YouTube cuts off the euros, and they also use the lowest rate of that given week, not that day, at the point of sending it to me. So I actually get 70% of that, so I get about a £5 or £6, which is quite, well, certainly helps. It pays for a few meals, so much appreciated. Herbert's joined. Thank you for joining. Thomas also joined. This live, it says live at the top on the left of the screen. Neural dust, I'm not sure what that means. Good morning all. Sorry I can't say that long. I'm at work. Well, thank you for joining anyway. Juliet, I think that's one of your members.
Oh yeah, hi. Good to have you here.
Yeah, so it comes up. So Juliet, if you look at the screen, it will come up with a paperclip next to our name if it's on the other person. So if it's got a paperclip on my thing, it's your person. If it's got a paperclip on your thing, it's my person. So Thomas, Herbert, and no name should be under paperclip, I think. If you guys have any questions about autism, carnivore diets, anything like exercise, please just give us a shout in the comment section. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you do have through there. Was there anything else you want to discuss today at all?
I know there was. Let me think. Well, I was. I'm also very just interested in how, like, the higher fat, like fatty meats, fatty dairy, can sometimes help, calm me or calm my kids in moments of like emotionally or even physically traumatic, like not like a, it's not like when you emotionally eat, it's when people eat junk, it's more like, okay, I feel very, like something has happened and I need a little bit of fat to help with the healing. And then you feel like kind of like your nerves are centered again. Am I making sense? Yeah. And I feel I've gotten that. And Xander too, like I've really noticed it with Xander. If he gets very aggressive or agitated, he has like big slab of meat with butter on it and it calms him right down.
Yeah, I think there's a few elements that you obviously got the hedonic pleasure of eating something you enjoy. You got the feeling of fullness, which is usually, oh, I'm not panicking now because I'm not starving hungry. You got the nutrient density, and you got the fact that people with autism need more food, which is odd. And you think, well, if I'm biological male weighing 103, 4 kilos, and I do this, then my brother should be able to eat the same if he had the same stuff. That's not the truth at all. The variation is about 20%. And I've worked this out because there will never be, I don't think there will ever be any science which will prove my point. That's why these anecdotes and like speaking to people that actually are coaching people is helpful, because I've noticed, it's about 15-20%. So if I have someone that has ADHD that I'm coaching, someone like that, they do tend to eat more food, and they also tend to eat more shellfish. So
I didn't know that.
Oily fish as well. Yeah, it seems to. How much of it is due to what they need and what makes them feel good, I don't know. Could just be happenstance, but there's not. I don't have. I don't have 1,000 people to ask. And there'll probably never be 1,000 carnivores on a live stream or a coaching group chat to ask. So it's something I'll never be able to prove, but that's why these sort of videos are important, because maybe someone in the US, young female, and listen to Juliet's story or something, they think, oh, I might try that. And that's how things get about. But sometimes things get about which aren't quite true, which we've experienced quite a few times.
My mom recently was, because a lot of my childhood was like the 80s and 90s. I was a teen in the 90s, but like that was when it was really like the low fat, people ate margarine. Everything was asked backwards with what we were told nutritionally. And I mean, a lot of it still is. But so my mom did what she thought was right and gave us the low fat, gave us the vegetarian, all that. Gave us better than, you didn't give us junk food, but gave us what, and we were talking, and they were talking about what they were making for dinner, and I was talking about what I was, and my mom and her partner had mentioned that they were going to have some broccoli, and I said, broccoli would wreck me, like most vegetables would wreck me, and and my mom said, I really wish I'd known all this when you were growing up. I wish I'd known that you do better, but she did say, I've always known that you do well on meat. There's some stuff she wishes she'd known. So there's some stuff that she always knew, but she kind of like intuitively knew, but it went against what they were told. And I'm like, well, you know what though? I know now, and I feel great now.
It's so hard to overeat meat. Like honestly think for anyone that's like overweight or got like a body composition, looking at themselves in the mirror thinking, well, if I could just gain about 5 more pounds of muscle and get a bit tighter, would do a carnivore diet for like 3 months, you're done. That's it.
It's impossible to overeat on carnivore because you get satisfied so fast.
Yeah, I think most people probably cap out about the same sort of amount of food, like depending on their weight.
Yeah, I can usually have like 2 meats.
I have to experiment with my meals to make them, dense enough, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about like 2 meats per meal usually.
Yeah, I think people on the autistic spectrum are better off with more foods than less. The thing is, like, people say, oh, your polymorphism's different, like your genetics are different. Like, yeah, they're probably different, but also they're not optimized to our current environment. We live a very unnatural lifestyle. And autism isn't a natural occurrence, really, in my opinion. So with that being said, I'd have to say, yeah, you probably have to have a more diverse diet, but then refine or lean into more foods that make you feel good. So if you go to bed at night, you think, oh, I had all that cheese last night, it gave me a headache. Most people just get rid of all the cheese. It's like, maybe it's not all the cheese, maybe it's the fact you just ate half a pound of cheddar.
Hey, I just thought of something.
I meet so many people like that. They just go over the top with, and they wonder why they're trying to swing the pendulum in every direction.
Yeah. I just thought of something as you were talking about like the brain and what we eat. Like, that cholesterol, like our brain's made up of cholesterol, and maybe autistic people do better on carnivore because maybe we have a greater need of certain things because of the brain and the cholesterol. And am I making sense? Like we have a greater need for some of those things in our brains.
Yeah, I think what we'll find is certainly an epidemiological group that tends to have autism more than other groups. We've got some loose extrapolations. We could look at, like, for example, not the Mormons, who are the other ones? The
Vikings?
No, like the recent,
Saxon? No.
Recent, not thousands of years ago. Not maybe the Amish. I think it's the Amish or the Quakers, maybe.
Yeah.
They don't have any autism in their community at all. But you look at they cannot get vaccinated. How much of that is because I don't know. Now, as soon as I say that, everyone below the comments saying, "Oh, autism is because of this." It's like, you don't know that. You're just guessing. Because you've got so much hatred in your mind, you think it's the person that is controlling you as a baby, stabbing a needle in your arm, when it could just be the fact that you've been eating nothing but Yorkies and Mars bars the last 20 years.
Oh, I have to actually go on a little rant now. Like, when my kids were very small, I actually had people ask me, well, do you know what caused your kids autism? I'm like, if I knew.
You wouldn't want to know. We're too late.
Like, seriously, you think that I would actively, like, how would I know? It's like, what?
Whether it's genes, diet, I don't know.
Yeah.
Genetic.
I mean,
think people like point blame.
But they are, my mom has admitted, that she's like, I think I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think I say lay people. I think people like us who are not doctors in front of millions and millions of people each day, sort of thing. It's pointless us even speculating because it doesn't serve us. Because I imagine I'm just sat there and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder what did this to me.
Right.
Just laying in your laurels. It's like, well, that's not a way to live, is it? What things can you manipulate or change in that point of time to prevent you from feeling worse? How do you modulate your symptoms with diet and things you can control? Like, no one has to eat chocolate bars. It's a choice.
Right. You can control the here and now, whatever caused it. It's here. It's what you're living with. Just have to make sure you can make the best of the life you've got.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Because you can't wonder how it happened. It's not going to serve you, is it, really?
Right.
No, you just get an feeling of hate, don't you? It's like the religious arguments with oh, there can't be a God because there's this war and that war. It's like, well, if someone's in a war, what do? They leave the war zone and they find a country of refuge. The same sort of principle should apply with I don't know, diet and lifestyle. Like, so the refuge would be going to the gym, doing yoga, not eating Twinkies and Mars bars. You know, it's like obvious. So I don't know. It's I think it's a waste of energy, largely speaking. I bet the people that can control the food system, the healthcare system, worry about that. And if the science is out there, it'll be found. You know.
And in the meantime, we can only control what we put in our own mouths.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I made a few videos recently on that, and I hope people actually watch them because they're not the sort of videos which will get a lot of traction. So we'll see. I think we're up to about 1,000 one of them.
I always watch your videos, so and I share them. So
yeah, I appreciate that. It goes a long way. It's the problem with autism online is like making videos about it is they don't like communicating. So if an autistic, say I might get 1,000 views of a video, or 10,000 views about autism, but how many of them will comment on it and say, "Oh, thanks for the video, John"? None, virtually none, maybe 2. So that's a real major frustration about making content about things that do matter. Meanwhile, I'll make a video and I'll say something like, "Oh, you should train close to muscular failure and standardize your technique and try and maintain good limb mobility and stuff like that." Then someone will say, "Oh, I disagree because I found this." And so it's like, we bothered to comment on this video, which is nothing about what I think some guy in England says about training, but you won't comment on something which is absolutely vital, important, which is the physical, mental health of someone that's in a physically deteriorating state all the time, living with autism. Like people have this weird, like, invest your energy in the right places. Like this is why I'm doing these sort of live streams about this, because we're just having a general sort of chit chat. Brought mum along today. We've got a few autistic people in the audience that are listening in, so it's actually helpful to them, and that will make more impact to them. But then if I make a video and say I'm just chatting to someone about something in the gym, they're not going to take away anything away from that. They hate that someone else has a different opinion to them. So that's part of the problem with the content. And what you'd have noticed, Juliet, with my recent content. So my recent content I've been making like David Attenborough style documentary videos. Now who's going to argue with David Attenborough? You look through the comments section. Not one person ever has critiqued any of that content and said you're wrong about this, because David Attenborough said it, not Jonathan, 29-year-old male from England. Even though I have 1,000 times more pedigree about health and nutrition than David Attenborough. It's like bizarre, but it's all about the front side of it, isn't it? The presentation. So that's my battle as a content creator. But yeah, man, what's been your experience with diet? You still eating like a lot of dairy and stuff?
Yeah, so
we both do a lot of dairy. And
it's funny you were saying about fish food and that, because I tend to lean towards more fishy foods, for the fats in the fish, like mackerel, prawns, etc., cod. I wonder if you naturally do crave that. I'm not autistic, but I might have a few little tendencies.
There's only two. Well, it depends how you divide up. There's only 2 nutrients which are absolutely required by human beings, but 2 macronutrients. So you got the protein and the fat.
Yeah.
The protein, you got the amino acids. And fish is very high in taurine. So why is fish high in taurine? Because they've got a lower antioxidant status capacity of their body, but they have more taurine to facilitate what they do produce as an antioxidant. So it like recycles the metabolic pathway.
Yeah.
So as they're swimming around, they're utilizing, creating a lot of oxidation, a lot of damaged tissues.
Yeah.
Because they have more taurine in it. So therefore, you eat the animal which has the taurine in it.
That's good.
And there's strong studies on depression, anxiety, taurine, stuff like that.
Yeah, but maybe you naturally crave it. But taurine, that converts to GABA, which isn't that right, John? Taurine converts to GABA, which is very calming. So maybe people with autism, ADHD ought to go down the more pescatarian route, perhaps.
I think there's a strong argument. Yeah. I think the Dr. Jack Cruz diet's pretty effective for that. I'd get, if I had an autistic person come to me like, oh, the symptoms aren't improving, I'm following a carnivore diet. I'm like, what do you eat? And 9 times out of 10, they say, oh, I'm just doing a lion diet. I'm like, where's your problem? People say, oh, but it's got all the nutrients. And I'm like, yeah, but you might need more. And they say, yeah, but I'm eating 2 kilos of beef. I'm like, yeah, but if you look at nutrition values on a sheet, so you've got all these bars, and every bar represents a nutrient. Now, what we find with beef is it might be that. But fish might be that when beef is that. So omega-3, taurine, DHA, B12, chromium, selenium, all these other things which you can get from beef, but because your settings, your background's different, you need more. It might be that someone doesn't need fish every day, but maybe they need fish twice a week, 3 times a week, but they don't know until they run an experiment.
Well,
that's why the anecdote is important, because if I say I just eat fish, people might start doing it more.
Yeah, I think diet does play a big role in helping people with autism and ADHD, because we're having a lot of it in UK, in England. Now, over in France, they eat whole foods. They don't have processed foods. They sit down. They eat proper food.
About a third, about 1/3 or less processed food than what we eat in England.
And there's less autism and ADHD in France. I'm just putting that. I'm just flagging it.
Probably more sunlight as well.
More sunlight, yeah.
Sunlight's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't get enough in UK. Yeah.
Or in Michigan. Yeah, my family eats, and this is like I just do it based on what I feel good eating, and I feed my kids this way. I'd say it's about it's about maybe 60-40 beef to red meat to fish. Like I'd say, about 60% red meat, maybe 40% fish-ish. We eat a lot of fish, and are like fatty fish like salmon and mackerel and stuff, and sometimes things like shrimp and but yeah, we eat a fair amount of fish here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a diet should be cyclical or seasonal. People say, oh, if you eat a seasonal diet, it means you eat fruit in the summer and this in the winter. Like, well, realistically, if I go outside, I'm more likely to get some berries at a certain time of year than another time of year. Problem is I don't tolerate any of them. So my seasonal diet is whatever I buy from the shop. It's beef, eggs. I do more cheese, but the funny thing about cheese, everyone's like, I don't know if maybe it's just me, I don't know, but people in the carnivore space online are always like, oh, I don't eat much dairy or cheese because it's easy to overeat and hyperpalatable. I don't find that at all. I find I can eat a good amount of cheese and I'm done, and that's it. I'm like, I'm salted out. I don't want any more. I just feel stodgy.
I'm the same way.
I don't enjoy that bite anymore.
Yeah, I just like to have a little bit, like a piece or a bite, and I'm good. I never really want to eat a whole bunch of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite filling cheese.
Yeah.
Quite filling.
It's very bloaty because it's very dense in energy. So if you get, for example, I'm going to use calories here just because it's a number that represents 2 other numbers. It's easy to say in 20 different numbers. If you have 100 calories of beef or 100 calories of cheese, the cheese is going to have way more per gram. It might be 400 calories in cheddar cheese. It might be 180 in beef, 100 grams of each sort of thing. The thing about the dairy is it's high in calcium. When you have too much calcium in your diet, it offsets or inhibits the absorption of magnesium.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it doesn't block it off completely. So people are going to be in the chat saying, how many minutes should I have between eating my block of cheese and my Costco beef burger pack? Don't think of it like that. Think about what you get in a whole day. Then if you have a specific issue, then worry about it, but don't look for problems that don't exist. And what people find is the calcium intake will sort of detract from the magnesium. So I notice myself, if I have my carnivore ice cream, maybe make a jelly, like lots of dairy, cheese items, things like milk, later that day, I'll actually dose the magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate a little bit higher. Not because I think I'm become deficient, but because I know if I've eaten too much dairy that day and not enough magnesium, my bowels aren't going to feel as good, basically. So that's what, they sort of say, have a bit of magnesium if you can't go, sort of thing. So yeah, I'm unfortunate. I've sussed this out over the years, but it is actually contest prep in bodybuilding where I actually realised that. So I was having baby bell lights, so low fat baby bells years ago, and I noticed the calcium was really high, but I wasn't really going to the toilet, and I was like, what's going on? But the mass of food that I was taking in was so dense because I was extracting all the nutrition from the food I was eating. I was also backed up because of the calcium in excess, because I was trying to get my protein high, my fat low. So it's like not enough fat with not enough magnesium. I think when people have a higher bolus of fat in their diet, just through just what they're eating during the day, I think it tends to have like a patch effect where if you feel a bit crap, it will make you feel better. Like, how people say, oh, I'm going to have a bite of chocolate because it'll pep me up a bit. I think the same thing's true, but it's the fat that does it, I think. So it's like telling your body you're secure, because fat is an expensive fuel source. You don't go into nature and just find a kilo of butter sat in front of you. These things have to be processed, churned out, cut from an animal, rendered, chewed. It's hard to get fat in your diet. So when your body actually gets it, it's saying, well, it's quite expensive, quite a rich sort of taste to have. I feel good now. I feel de-stressed, and they've done it's this a loose extrapolation based on what I've read, but they did a comparison between two studies in long distance athletes, so endurance athletes, and they fed them both a diet with, I believe, matched protein amounts after the workout, but one had a high carb and one had a high fat intake. And funny enough, the one you'd think the carbohydrates would refuel their muscle glycogen from long distance runs and this, that, and the other, and they feel good, but no, the cortisol was actually lower when they're having the fat with the protein rather than the carbohydrates with the protein. So people say, oh, you block cortisol with more carbs. It's like you actually block more cortisol with more fat. So that's how it works. And since I said that a few years back, people started to have these like butter bites and things before bed. I'm like, that was my idea. That was what I said years ago. And I'm obviously not the first person to do it, but I'm the first person to extrapolate from that research and say, well, no, maybe you don't need carbohydrates after the gym. So then I ran an experiment. So this is what I always tell people in these like videos, like find out what the most likely possible thing you can do is that will help you. Run an experiment. Yeah. Did it work or did it not? That's it. It's when a lot of these questions come through the chat, it's not so much I want to not answer them for people and be awkward. It's like I think they're looking at the wrong thing and they're trying to pinhole themselves into someone else's situation because I have arthritis because I include dairy still, and it's like one person said it, and they all just copy. They go round the robin sort of thing and just copy everything everyone says. So yeah, I encourage people to be more thinkers than copiers, because my diet is, my diet's completely different to yours, and even if you're a 29-year-old male bodybuilder sort of thing, you could eat a completely different diet to me. You could eat a diet entirely of lamb. I don't know, but the only way you're going to know is when you try it, I think so.
Right. We are all individual.
Yeah. So my mum's not a strict carnivore by any means, but I'd still say she is most of the time animal based. So she's there's a few things she eats for now which is better than what she's just like turkey slices. So they're lean. Eggs. She'll do like an omelette, sometimes scrambled egg. Steaks a few times a week.
Cut down on bread.
Fish. Or if mum gets
biscuits and cakes so much, very rarely.
Over here we're quite big on like fish and chips and things. What mum will do, she'll have like a few chips maybe. She'll have the breaded cod from the shop, but then she'll take the breading off.
Just eat the fish.
And just eat the white fish. So
I've become more aware because I'm doing nutrition, I'm more conscious of what I put in my mouth now, a lot more. I never used to think about what I was eating, but I do. Everything I eat, I think about it. Is it good for me? Is it not? Or have a few treats now and again, but my diet's completely changed and I've got a lot slimmer through it as well because I was starting to get a bit plump. I was nearly 11 stone once. I'm probably about 9-10 stone.
I think my mum's nearly as petite as you, Juliet. Bear in mind, my mum's never been an athlete. She's not.
Yeah.
She's done like
That's
some
funny.
activities and stuff in the past, but she's not like going to the gym 10 times a week.
No.
But now she's starting to build up a little bit of strength, like coordination of things. I was sort of saying to Mum, you don't have to be in here 4 hours. I train 3 hours a week and I have pretty decent muscularity. Like, imagine what you could do in an hour a week. But an hour when you're a beginner is like 20 hours when you're an advanced person. So you get more, less to make returns. So
yeah. So you're doing yoga now. I do yoga every day. How are you enjoying your yoga?
I started going to yoga Monday, and I'm going to try and do another day. So when you're doing yoga, your mind is completely absorbed. You don't think of anything else. It's like completely absorbed in what you're doing. And you mentioned about doing yoga with autism and your daughter. I think that's really great, because you become immersed in it a lot. You don't think of other things. And you're concentrating on what you're doing, how you're doing your moves. You become quite mindful. So, I quite like it, actually, even though it's hard for me to do certain moves, but I just compromise. So that's good.
And in time, it'll be very, like, you won't even think about it. Like, in time, it'll get easier and just very second nature. Like, you won't give it a thought. Just movement will just, it really will feel like a flow.
Yeah, and they seem very nice people in there, actually. They're quite friendly. Just sort of gradually getting used to some of the people there.
Yeah.
But I'm not as flexible as the others. I'm slim and everything, but I can't do the lotus position because I've had a hip operation. So I can move one leg in, but I can't, like, do the star movement. I can do it on one side, but not the other. I can't put all weight down on my bad leg. But I can do it on the other leg. But it's good. It's good therapy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yoga's the kind of thing that they have, like, pretty much anyone can do it, and like a good teacher can, like, meet you where you are.
Yeah.
They'll be meeting me on the floor crying wise. My brother had
oh, he's good.
My brother's good at yoga, so he's not like a health hacker, biohacker sort of, but he does a few things which, like, try to maintain strength and mobility and stuff, and he's had injuries and things.
He's very flexible. I was quite impressed, actually, how he can.
Yeah, he found something called DDPY, so it's Diamond Dallas Page Yoga. So that's just like normal yoga, but it's like kind of a bit of circuit training added to it. So, like, it might be like 5 push-ups and hold it in a stretch position, then move into a, you can add to it, so you create like a circuit sort of thing, like an advanced routine. But he enjoys that a lot, but he's been trying to get me to do that for years, and it's like a program you can pay for, but he obviously pays for it, so he doesn't mind sharing the logins or whatever. And he always refers back to this one guy. I think he's like an Asian American gentleman, and he had a similar sort of spine problem to me. And he's like, oh, look at this guy before and after, look what he could do there and then. Basically, without sugarcoating it, he's a fat guy, no longer a fat guy, and now he can do all these bends and handstands. I'm like, most of that's because he's lost about 10-15 stone. It's not because he's been doing yoga 3 times a week for an hour. It's because he's not fat anymore. But with me, it's like there's no extra weight to come off. And all of these movements which stabilize my spine are worse for it. My body has to work 4 times harder just to keep that in if I'm like raising my leg up. My core strength, my hip flexion is so weak, embarrassingly weak. But I can't actually train to develop it. So like my lower back and stuff. So if someone said to me, "Oh, just do like the 1 arm up, Superman, 1 leg back," that'll put me in bed for 2 days, because my spine has to work so much harder just to maintain that lower back position. So you'll see my legs like shaking like that, and that's when I can't feel my feet anyway. A lot of the time, I've got no coordination, so it's not an effective strategy. But if they had a way to do it, where you could do it in a pool, I don't know, or you can like put your leg up or something where you're like you're not dealing with gravity as much. Yeah, I could probably work up to it, but it takes such a long time.
Yeah. I can see how that might be some consideration. One thing interesting about yoga for me is I never had great arm tone. And I mean, it's better now. I mean, I've got the little flab, which I'm not going to show you, but women have the chicken wings that don't go away, but my upper arms get pretty toned. And what's interesting is when I was for so long, like I'd go to the doctor and like they had to draw blood or whatever, or when I was like having my kids, like they'd have to put an IV in me, they couldn't find a vein. And now, like since doing yoga, because I get a lot of arm strength, I do things like planks and half planks and other balancing poses, and now my arms are so veiny. Like very veiny ever since I started doing yoga every day. I'm like, oh, my arms look kind of manly.
I didn't know it made you more veiny. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
For me it does.
I didn't know.
Yeah, if your hands are occluded, there's more blood pressure, isn't there? So more blood pressure forces the capillaries to expand more.
Ah.
Oh, okay, that's why.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'm
Is there
very
anything else you wanted
self-conscious.
to cover today, too?
Huh?
Is there anything else you wanted to cover at all today?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll think of something after.
I can't think of anything. No, I think what John's really covered really about you've got to think closely at your diet in autism. You know, it can help you a lot. But doctors don't really, they just hand out tablets, don't they? They don't know a lot about diet and nutrition. They're not really.
There's no adult support in this country at all.
Yeah, it's hopeless.
At all.
Yeah, it's rubbish for autism.
Unless you're a 5-year-old boy with a very headstrong mum.
Yeah.
You're not getting help, basically.
That's
it
pretty
doesn't
much
get picked
true.
up. It's hard to get diagnosis.
It is. Yeah, you have to. I think you have to have that moment. I'm glad we did, where you're like, wait a minute, I should maybe get this checked out. And not everyone. I mean, I think we're fortunate that we had that we thought to seek it out, because I'm sure you feel the same way. But now that I have it, you know, like, yes, I still have struggles, but at least I can understand why, and I have something to go on. And it just helps, like, it's not just like, oh, what's wrong with me? It's okay, it's this, and I can work from that knowledge. And it just kind of makes it, at least it gives me something to work with, you know, with myself.
Yeah. I think the diagnosis for some people was quite pertinent. And a lot of people, when I make these sort of videos of people about autism, like, oh yeah, it's just a word, like it doesn't mean much. We didn't have that when I was a kid, and just a label. It's like, well, if that label enables me to live a bit better and understand myself, I'd be an absolute moron not to read it.
Yeah, I think they're in denial, teachers. They just say we're all different. You know, there's no such thing. That's typical.
The thing hasn't. So Juliet's one of the few people online that I've spoken to that be able to relate to me in this. People always say, oh, I think we're all on the spectrum. And that's a bystander's layperson view of trying to appeal to emotion, say, oh, we're all a bit the same. You know, I know your struggles. It's like, no, you don't know the fact that I had to sit in hours and hours and hours of interviews and talks and make believe storytelling things to get a diagnosis. So it's like, would you have gone through all that? Like, it's when you do get the diagnosis, it helps you characterize yourself. I think a lot of people just think, oh, it's just a word. It's like saying there's a spectrum is daft, because I think people use the spectrum incorrectly. I think there's certainly a gradient. So remember earlier, Juliet, when I said your son experiences negative symptoms, like, well, yeah, he typically, if you get 100 people in a room, he'd probably be on the worst side, as in terms of like outwards presentation, difficulties, things like that. Then also get people that are like me, which you don't see it. So the thing is, people only see you when in your best light. Because if I'm feeling burnt out, if I'm feeling tired or overly symptomatic, or I just want to go into a dark room, people aren't going to see me when I'm like that. They only see you on your best day. So I have a lot more patience now with people that I say, like, you know, I've got fibromyalgia or fatigue or this, that. I'm like, yeah, I bet 99% of the time that I not see you, I bet you're absolutely struggling like fuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And even
And
like
you
how we
don't know,
present ourselves, like what's going on behind, like, you know, like inside, like what thought processes are we going through? And like if I'm, you know, if I'm talking to another person, if I have to have a public interaction, how much of a process I've been going through to get through that interaction and like not mess it up in my head. You know what I mean? There's like this internal kind of planning.
Dialogue and anxiety.
Yeah, definitely always an underlying anxiety.
Yeah. I feel bad for a lot of women because I'm sure there's a lot of women out there that are undiagnosed who just don't get the help they need. I mean, I personally don't come across many autistic females at all. Like, less than a handful in my life.
Yeah. So. And it's also hard because, like, and I feel really bad saying this, so I hope it comes across the right way. My kids are my most, like, I love them more than anyone, and I put them before anyone, even myself, because when you're a mother, that's what you do, you know? But I feel like people who, you know, I feel like, yes, I'm taking care of my autistic kids, and I would do anything for them. But do they realize I am struggling too? And sometimes I feel like I need some help. I have needs I need met. And kind of I'm struggling alone in it, even though I know I'm not really alone. Like I do talk to a therapist and my family's very supportive, but just as far as like the outside world, like, I don't know, like people talk to me as a parent, people, you know, I mean, they come at me with all this stuff and, you know, they seem to forget that, oh, she's autistic too. And what does she maybe need help with? How is she struggling? And I realize that saying this, I probably sound so selfish, and I'm not. My kids do come first, but sometimes like I need help too. And I wish someone could see that I'm struggling sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're a bit more fortunate over here with that sort of thing. Not specifically because you'd be a parent of someone with autism, but more so because you'd be a carer. So if you're a carer in this country, you do have quite a bit of help, a lot of support and things. And I guess because you've got three children, you've almost got lots of school parents to mingle with and shoot ideas off of, sort of things. So it could be helpful in a way.
Oh, that's actually a weird thing for me. Like, I have a hard time interacting with other parents for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of them that I know of are not autistic, so they don't get that side. The other, I kind of don't make friends with other parents because then the friendship would be all about having our autistic kids. And maybe I just want to have friends who are adults and just hang out and not have it be about being parents. And then the third reason is I would be constantly comparing, like, well, I'm a shit parent compared to them, and oh, they've got it all together. And these are all stupid reasons, but these are reasons that it's very hard for me to connect with other autism parents. And it's my issue, and I'm probably a fool, but those are my deals.
I think if there's an autistic parent out there and they're not giving their kids cookies and chocolate bars before they go into school each morning, I think they've done themselves a massive service. Because like most parents nowadays, you just give their kids junk and send them into school. They'll give them a cereal bar and that's it. They just go into school.
Yeah.
22 grams of sugar, 1 gram of protein, 4 grams of fat, chocolate, lectins, gluten, oxalates, sugar, sweeteners.
And that's pretty much the school breakfast bar. Well, you know that I pack my kids
people give their children in school.
Yeah, because I mean, their school menus they'd be like cereal bars, chocolate milk. Sometimes the school menu, like, there's no protein to be found. So I'll pack their lunches, but I pack their breakfast and lunch. But in addition to that, I do give them an additional breakfast before school just to make extra sure, because what if they get to school and, for example, Xander has a meltdown and just there's like distractions and things that are struggling with, because that has happened. So I give them like additional, like I will give them some bacon and eggs before school, and then I'll send them to school with like some some sausage and yogurt or whatever. And because I don't trust, I mean, like parents might know better, but what the school guidelines here will give the kids is trash. Even if it is like my boys, their school's entirely autistic students. Even then, like they feed them crap. It's like, nope, I am not letting them have any of that. They had late last school year, one of my sons, it was Williams School, had it was like a fundraiser for pop for the school. They won like a pop fundraiser. A pop is, we call it soda here in the Midwest US. So like Coke and stuff. Like, no, it wasn't a fundraiser. I'm sorry, it was donations. They needed soda donations for some event, like a field day or something. I think you call it sports day. They wanted soda donations for the school. And so I donated a bunch of bottled water. I'm donating water. I'm not donating soda. I couldn't believe they were asking for that.
Yeah, I think what I'll do, because we've got two autistic mothers here, we'll wrap it up sharp in 5 minutes on the dot. I want to ask, what would your key teaching point, or I don't know, key piece of information you'd give to other autistic parents? If I ask Juliet first and ask you, Mum.
Well, just to let's see, what's a good one? Well, that your parenthood might not look how you expected it to look. It might look different than how other people's parenting experience looks. But to just this is the child you've got. Don't try to change who they are. Just try to make sure that they have the best experience being who they are and bring out the best in who they are. I see so many people, and this sometimes like kind of mourning that their kids have autism. Don't mourn it. I mean, yes, they have more struggles, but celebrate who they are, because like my like for example, William, he might not present in the most, he's not neurotypical. He has different struggles, but he's very kind. He's got, all of my kids, like, yes, they're not typical, but they are honest, and they, where you stand with them, and they're good. And so celebrate who they are, and don't mourn who they are not, celebrate who they are. That's simply, but sorry, I tend to ramble. That's it. Celebrate who they are.
And what would your advice be?
I think, don't worry about it. Just embrace who they are, and don't take too much notice of other parents, because they can interfere and give you the wrong advice. If they don't know, only you know what's right and what's best for your own child. And people are too busy like meddling and, I would do this, I would do that. I wouldn't take notice of other people if they haven't got autistic children themselves, because they haven't been down that road. They haven't walked that path, have they?
Right.
So, embrace who they are. I mean, there are good things about autism. They're like, I remember when we were in Tesco's and getting some shopping, and John was saying, I put something back and it was in the wrong order. It was a cheese and tomato quiche. And I put it in the wrong place. And John said, no, that's got to go there, because some elderly lady will notice that. Well, won't notice that, and might take the wrong thing, and I thought, oh, what a kind thing, very organised. It can have many advantages. There are advantages in autism sometimes.
I think there's loads of advantages and disadvantages.
Things. Yeah.
It's not all bad. It's just yielding them to the best outcome.
Yeah.
If I know that I'm not, if I know that going out into a group of people at a bar pisses me off, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
You're never going to see me at a bar around a load of people. Or if I am, I'm grossly exceeding what I should be able to do.
Yeah, don't force children to do what they're uncomfortable doing just because other children are doing it. Doesn't mean to say if it's not right for your child, then don't do it. If they're not comfortable with it, don't, you need to gradient things.
I think that
gradually incorporate them into things.
I think that maybe
not
me being
put them full on, expose them, hoping that they run with it. No, just gradient. Gradually,
I think maybe the fact that I have autism helps in that way, because I'm like, oh, my kids, that might be too much, because I realize, oh, it might be too much for me. So I can kind of be like, I have a little like the empathy, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, I could see how it could be too much for them,
One thing that always confused about people when I read up about autism, like the most, I don't know what word is. I always hear people say, "Oh, they've not got empathy." I'm like, that's the complete exact opposite of my experience. Autistic people have too much empathy.
Yeah,
that's why they have to avoid people more, because they experience every fucking emotion everyone else does.
Yeah,
times 10.
Like putting the item in the wrong place. They're thinking of other people's feelings.
It's a perpetual life of anxiety trying to please people.
Yeah, no, my kids
wrap
have
up there anyway, because we'll definitely wrap up there.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We've left it on a positive note for you. Thanks so much for people that have kind of left questions, chats, super chats, and donations and all sorts. And please subscribe to Juliet's channel if you can. Juliet, you need to put your channel on the thing every time, by the way, because I'm reading it. I don't know what your channel is.
Oh, okay. See, I am
every single time because I can't get it.
Experience. Yes, Juliet's autistic experience. And
okay. Yeah, nice one. Yes, you'll find her on that channel. You can find me on Carnivore Muscle. Always thanks very much for joining, and we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Check out my site at compositionconsultant.com, where your journey to peak performance and optimal health begins. With a degree in human nutrition and over 15 years of training experience, I've guided more than 400 carnivores to not just meet, but exceed their physique and performance goals. Through personalised consultations, comprehensive ebooks, and dedicated coaching, I'm here to ensure your success. Join the ranks of those who have transformed their lives. It's time to align your physique goals with positive health outcomes. Visit compositionconsultant.com today and take the first step towards the best version of you.